Once again.
James here from Riley's Autos. We're going to change the brake discs front and rear on this car. So you can see here the discs are not in very good shape at all. They're not braking evenly and they are just bubbling to pieces with rust. So we're going to get these off. We've got a clamp here on the brake pads, and we've got some bolts to hold the caliper on, and then we've got caliper holding bolts, and we'll see what sizes they are in a minute. These are usually 6mm or 7mm Allen key hex bolt, and then these are look like they should be about a 16 or 17. So we've got a 7 HW7. And we're just going to remove these grommets, and then we can get our 7 in here on the caliper. Pry bar. Before we do that, we're going to get this off. Push that out, spring. Get a pry bar in here and get this caliper off. We'll use a screwdriver or a pry bar like this and get in behind the caliper over here. Once you've slid it out a little bit, you should be able to get something in behind it here. And just squeeze it forward to compress the piston. It will come off nicely. I'll rest that over there. We've got these caliper holding bolts. That's an 18mm there. And I'm just going to hold the ratchet, stop it from bouncing with my hand, and we're going to give it a few taps just with the handle here of the clamp armor. Just to try and loosen that down. And if that doesn't work, like we're going to do here, we're going to have to look for something bigger. And we're going to spray some WD-40 on here. Let that sit for a minute. Here we've got an extension with a 17mm deep socket on it. We can slip that over the end here, and that'll allow us to get a little bit of extra leverage. Loose, we can get onto the bottom one. Use your foot there if you have to. Quite stiff. They're coming loose. So we'll just wind these all the way out. There you can see why it's so tight. Someone's put red Loctite on them. Bolts out, we can get the slider out, and there's the two bolt holes. That's the two caliper holes here. Now we've got T50 to get off the disc retaining bolt. So we've got that off, and yeah, this is not going to just pull off by hand. You can see the amount of rust on it, so we're going to have to use a bit of force, as in a hammer. Can spin it around, take it out of gear so we can spin the disc around. Look at the state of that. It's literally crumbling to pieces. Here we've got some nice fancy brake discs. These are already coated with a nice silver paint. Keep them fresh. But first we're gonna rub down all of this and grease it so we don't get the disc sticking to it. Let's give it a nice rub down. Now we can get some grease. Just run it around. So our new disc is going to slip on nicely, and it's not going to stick there. It'll be difficult to get off like the last one. Find our retaining bolt hole just here, and align it up with this one. Get our retaining screw. Back in. Get our caliper holder back on. I'm just going to tighten these all the way in. Just a little shock to give it that last bit of tightness. Got our new brake pads and caliper holder back on. Caliper. And we're going to press our slider pins back in. They're nice and free, so if these are stiff, they're not pulling in and out freely, you're going to pull them out and grease them. Now we've got here our little plastic grommets that just seal the sliders up to stop any dirt going in. We'll push those back in place, and we've got a job all done here on the caliper. Just put the wheel back on, and don't forget your anti-rattle retaining clip, and just push that back in place there. Wheel back on and lower, and done. Now we're going to do the rear discs on this Volvo. It's got an electric parking brake, so we're going to have to use our tool to release that. So here we've got our Rotors machine here. We're going to go into our electric parking brake, and we're going to put it in the service position. Continue. And release the parking brake. So the voltage was too low there as we had the car with the ignition on for about 10 minutes. So just start the car for a minute, build the voltage back up. Now we're going to switch it off. Put the ignition back onto ignition number 2 so the ignition lights are on. And release the parking brake. Now it's released. Can activate service mode. So you'll hear a loud buzzing noise of the caliper winding back. At the back here we've got two 13mm bolts we've just undone. Here and here. Top and bottom. Slide the caliper out a little bit and then get a pry bar or screwdriver and just press it in. And now we can get that released. Just rest it on there. And we've got some big bolts in here again. 18mm should be. So we've just already put the pads on this yesterday, if you have a look on our other videos. So we're just going to do discs now. These rear caliper holder bolts are 15mm. So they're a bit smaller than the fronts. Front ones were 18. I'm just going to undo them. T50 torque on the caliper retaining bolt. Take it out. And take it off. Just to clean this up a little bit. It's got a little bit of rusty particles on there, so we're just going to sweep them off and brush it up with some grease. Stops the stops the brake disc from sticking. Now we've got our new disc. Stick that on there. Put the retaining bolt back on there. Caliper holder. Just going to get those bolts on there. And the bottom one is down here. We're going to get our brake pad here and slip it in like so, and then twist and lock it into place. Same on the other side here. Now we can go on ahead here and get the wheel back on. Just going to align the holes here, so we're just grabbing the disc and spinning the wheel just so they're aligned like that. We can get our bolts and put them in there. Just twist them in a few turns by hand. We can go ahead and just torque them all down. It's all done. fresh new brake discs. Now we're back in here, just released, deactivated the service mode, and now we're going to just reapply the handbrake.